Jeremy Clarkson, the once fiery TV presenter best known for his high-octane car shows, has morphed into something even more significant in recent years: a powerful voice for the rural community, an outspoken critic of the government, and a relentless challenger of the political status quo. His transformation from a man known for revving engines to a figurehead of dissent hasn't come overnight. But the world of politics and government is starting to realize Clarkson isn't just another celebrity making noise for the sake of it. He's become an unrelenting force, standing up for the people the system often overlooks. The question on many people's minds now is, what will happen when the powers that be come after him? Could Clarkson's rumored arrest be the latest attempt to silence a man who has dared to speak his truth, even when it ruffles the feathers of the powerful? The rise of Clarkson as the farmers' champion. Long before the whispers about his potential arrest began circulating, Jeremy Clarkson was making waves in an entirely different realm. His show Clarkson's Farm gave the world an inside look at the struggles of British farmers, struggles that were largely ignored by politicians, despite their promises. Clarkson, who had no formal farming experience, stepped in to take on the land himself. What followed was a raw, honest portrayal of the frustrations that come with running a farm in the modern world. It wasn't just entertainment, it was a wake-up call. Clarkson became the voice of the voiceless, speaking out against the unfair treatment of farmers by the very system that claimed to support them. With his brutal honesty and fearless approach, Clarkson's critiques resonated with farmers up and down the UK. To them, he was more than just a celebrity with an opinion. He was a hero willing to take on the powers that ignored their suffering. "I wanted to come along and support farmers," Clarkson said, knowing full well that their battles weren't getting the attention they deserved. "What happens next if they don't listen? I've got some ideas." His words weren't just bravado, they were a call to action. And when it became apparent that the government wasn't interested in listening, Clarkson wasn't afraid to amplify the message in ways that some might say were more dramatic than necessary. But Clarkson wasn't just talking the talk, he was prepared to walk the walk. He was ready to challenge the system and its unfair treatment of the country's rural backbone. It's no wonder, then, that his arrest became a topic of hot debate. Could this be the establishment's way of punishing a man who had dared to speak out against it? The arrest, a move to silence him? As rumors of Clarkson's impending arrest began to swirl, the reaction was swift and unmistakable. While some shrugged it off as a celebrity scandal, others saw something more sinister at play. This wasn't just a case of the media's love for a juicy story. It felt like something more orchestrated. For those who had followed Clarkson's outspoken criticisms of the government, his arrest seemed to be more than coincidental. Was this an attempt to silence one of the few public figures willing to challenge the establishment? "I'm arresting you for criminal damage," the officer reportedly told Clarkson, as the situation unfolded. "You'll be out of jail in 20 minutes, Mr. Clarkson." But this arrest wasn't just about one man's defiance, it was a larger statement. A symbol, if you will, of the lengths to which those in power will go to preserve the status quo. Just think about it. A man who had been so open about calling out the government, calling it out for what it was, a system built on corruption and self-interest, was now being silenced, or at least threatened with silencing. Ricky Gervais, a fellow voice of defiance. And then there's Ricky Gervais, the comedian whose sharp wit and unapologetic views on politics have made him a polarizing figure, even among his own fanbase. Gervais, like Clarkson, has never been one to mince words when it comes to calling out the establishment. His opinion on politics is blunt: never trust those in power. Gervais, unlike many other public figures, doesn't care about the consequences of speaking his truth. "I've always said it," Gervais explained. "Politicians don't care about the people. They care about power. They care about staying in control. They'll do whatever it takes to keep that power. The promises they make? Forget about it." Ricky's message resonates deeply with many. The idea that politicians are only in it for themselves, that they have no interest in the people they're supposed to represent, is one that strikes a chord with many voters who feel disenfranchised. And with Clarkson and Gervais both openly calling out the system, you have to wonder, could they both be targeted in the same way? Could Clarkson's arrest be a larger tactic to suppress voices like his? After all, Gervais has openly criticized cancel culture, and his commentary on the political establishment has drawn parallels to Clarkson's own rise as a vocal critic of the UK's government. The struggle against a corrupt system. The rise in popularity of Clarkson and Gervais as anti-establishment figures isn't just about their celebrity status. It's about the disillusionment felt by millions of people who are tired of being lied to, manipulated, and ignored. It's about a public that no longer believes in the promises of politicians. That's why petitions calling for a new election have gained momentum, gathering millions of signatures. It's a clear message: people want change. And yet, as the public demands more transparency, the government and its leaders are increasingly losing credibility. The British public is starting to see the cracks in the system. And as those cracks widen, more and more people are turning to voices like Clarkson's and Gervais's for the kind of honesty that's lacking in mainstream politics. When Clarkson's name began trending amid rumors of his arrest, it didn't feel like just another celebrity scandal. It felt like something larger, a sign that those who are willing to challenge the establishment are being targeted, silenced, or discredited. The tax burden, a call for change. In recent years, issues like inheritance tax have also come to the forefront of political debates. The UK government's proposed changes to inheritance tax rules have sparked widespread concern. For families already struggling with rising property values, the new taxes could prove disastrous. If your estate exceeds the tax-free threshold, the government could seize a staggering 40% of your estate, and that's not even factoring in pensions, which could push the tax burden to an eye-watering 91%. The impact of these policies could be catastrophic for middle-class families. For those relying on pensions to fund their retirement, these new rules could leave them with very little to pass on to their children. Clarkson and Gervais, both of whom have publicly voiced their disdain for such policies, represent the frustrations of a public that is rapidly growing tired of being taxed to the hilt. The road ahead, a battle for transparency and truth. As the political landscape shifts and the pressure continues to mount, the question remains: will the voices of Clarkson and Gervais, and others like them, be silenced? Will their efforts to expose the truth be thwarted by those who have everything to lose? Or will the people finally demand the accountability they deserve? Jeremy Clarkson may have been a TV presenter once, but today, he stands as one of the few figures unafraid to challenge the powers that be. His arrest, like Gervais's sharp critiques, may be part of a larger fight for transparency and truth in a world where power often overshadows what's right. The arrest of Clarkson may just be the beginning of a larger narrative. One that forces us to question: who holds the real power, and how far are those in control willing to go to keep it?